It seems Apple's iPhone 17 series might not necessarily get more expensive, but with an interesting catch, along with a new set of interesting rumors. Samsung's next event is hinting to most of the right moves when it comes to phones and tablets. Any of you interested in the Galaxy TriFold, it seems the wait might not be as long as we expected. Google versus the DOJ ended up with a very interesting outcome, and yes, Google's Pixel 10a might make a controversial move that I'm hoping has a positive purpose. I'm Jaime Rivera, and it's time for these 5 interesting topics. This is Tech Briefing, powered by MediaTek. Samsung's virtual Galaxy Unpacked event on Thursday is shaping up to be pretty interesting overall, and you knew Evan Blass was not going to disappoint with the leaks. In his most recent tweet, he shows us images of what Samsung seems to call the ultimate dream team. Obviously, the bigger spotlight is on Samsung's Galaxy Tab S11 and S11 Ultra. They're both powered by MediaTek's Dimensity 9400 Plus, which is fantastic news, and then the base 11-inch model apparently starts at $860 for the Wi-Fi version with 256 gigs of storage, while the Ultra seems to start at $1,200 for that same storage, and all the way up to $1,700 if you want a terabyte. And by the way, that's the only model that includes 16 gigs of RAM apparently. Now, as for the Galaxy S25 FE, this is probably the best update to this lineup since it launched back in 2020. We're talking 4 possible colors, with navy being once again the halo product. We're talking 4,900 mAh battery, faster 45-watt charging, an upgraded ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, and about the only thing that kind of worries me is last year's Exynos 2400 powering the show. That being said, once you look at the possible price tag of $650 for 128 gigs or $710 for 256, let's just say competition just got interesting. I'm curious to know what you think about this in the comments. Samsung might be gearing up for a busier season than usual with not one but 2 big events this fall, and actually probably within the same month. The first one we already discussed with the Galaxy S25 FE and the Galaxy Tab S11 series, but new leaks suggest an additional unpack that could happen as soon as September 29th in South Korea. According to Ice Universe and a fresh ET News report, this second event could serve as a grand debut for Samsung's long-rumored Galaxy Z TriFold, in addition to its Project Muhan XR headset and even a new pair of AI-powered Galaxy glasses. If true, it could mark one of Samsung's most ambitious fall lineups in years, bringing foldables, extended reality, and wearable AI into a single spotlight. That being said, there is a catch. It seems the company is treading carefully with its TriFold launch. Reports indicate that the company is only preparing about 50,000 units for the first wave, suggesting it views this as a market test rather than a mass market rollout, which, yes, is pretty much how they handled the Z Fold Special Edition that later led to the Galaxy Z Fold 7 we've all praised this year. In a similar fashion, this device might be exclusive to regions like South Korea and China, and heck, we don't even know if this model will then launch globally, or a more refined model later like we saw with the Galaxy Unpacked with the Z Fold 7. Samsung is clearly betting that its mix of bold hardware and AI-driven experiences can re-energize its ecosystem heading into the end of the year, so I'm now curious how much you'd be willing to pay for this phone. I'm talking the TriFold in the comments. An interesting resolution came from the Google versus DOJ trial, where the company was accused of being a monopoly back in 2024. Speculation grew strong over concerns of the company maybe having to sell Chrome, Android, or even split up in ways no modern tech company has had to do so. But hey, in an interesting turn of events, even if Google was found guilty of holding a monopoly in the online advertising technology market, let's just say the remedy was actually better than we expected. So no, the court rejected remedies like splitting the company or having to sell Chrome or Android, which is great. It can also continue paying companies like Apple to feature its search engine as a default, which Cupertino gains $20 billion a year for. But then this is where the restrictions kind of start to kick in. Google is barred, for example, from striking exclusive distribution contracts in the future, and then another is that the company must now share parts of its search index and user interaction data with qualified competitors to help level up the playing field. A technical committee will oversee the process for the next 6 years, with a plan of helping competitors have the same fair chance as Google in its dominance. I'm going to admit that I'm happy things didn't get any worse, but then I'm curious to know what you think about all this in the comments. It seems Google's plan for the next Pixel A series is not going to be as bold as it's been since probably its inception back in 2019. See, the Pixel A series has long been praised for offering nearly the same flagship performance we've come to expect from the regular models, but at a lower price point and some corners cut. This meant that sure, even if part of the body was made of plastic, you'd get the latest Tensor chip, a good display, and even most of the camera performance of the most expensive models, but it seems those days will be gone in the next launch, sort of. A new report from Mystic Leaks points to the Pixel 10a carrying the older Tensor G4 rather than the brand new Tensor G5, and man, that is a rough one, as I'm liking the Tensor G5. I mean, the rest of the specifications sound good enough, with 2000 nits on display, 128 gigs of the UFS 3.1 base storage, and the typical dual camera array, which is currently sort of on par with the base Pixel 10, even if that one graduated to 3 cameras. That being said, though, this is actually not the first time. The first 3 generations of Pixel A series would launch with a lesser chip, and it wasn't until the Pixel 6 and Tensor that things changed. But then that makes me wonder if Google plans to lower the price as a strategic move, given how the price has kept creeping up year over year. I'm curious to know what you think about all these possible changes in the comments. Now, before we get to the hottest news, let me tell you about today's sponsor, MediaTek. The Moto Edge is the company's latest premium flagship match with great looks and amazing feel in the hand thanks to its premium materials, and also Motorola's latest collaboration with MediaTek on its Dimensity 7400 Ultra. Its 4nm architecture enables powerful experiences like the great color reproduction this 6.7-inch curved display provides. It's capable of all the cool improvements in Moto AI, its chip efficiency allows for all the endurance you need with 2-day battery life, and then we have an ISP that delivers great photography from its triple camera system. It's the reason Motorola continues to choose MediaTek year over year. Thanks to MediaTek for sponsoring this video. And finally, for the hottest news today, let's talk about Apple's iPhone 17 series as it keeps getting, well, dare I say, interesting. On the controversial front, Cupertino is reportedly preparing to expand its eSIM approach with the iPhone 17 lineup, bringing at least one eSIM-only model to more countries outside the United States. New reports claim that retail staff across the European Union has been asked to undergo mandatory training on eSIM support before September 5th, suggesting that the company is getting ready to eliminate the physical SIM tray in at least part of its lineup. The most likely candidate is the iPhone 17 Air. I mean, I won't say it's too thin to fit a SIM card if the Z Fold 7 can, but it's what the sources have been calling out, and which could make it the first eSIM-only iPhone in international markets, though China might be an exception. It seems people there are reluctant to accept eSIM-only smartphones, so we'll see if the Air remains out of China or if there is a SIM alternative in the works. Now, on the interesting front, apparently Apple is tweaking its accessory strategy. Leaker Majin Buu claims that the iPhone 17 Pro's clear case will see major design updates, including support for crossbody straps and more opaque back with a centered Apple logo for visual balance. Apparently, tinted versions of the case have also been tested and could appear in limited runs later, so yeah, I'm already wondering what Apple is doing to the back to warrant such interesting cases. But anyways, on the positive front, let's talk pricing. JP Morgan analysts are projecting that prices aren't gonna get more expensive, or at least not for all models, sort of. It seems the base 17 will remain at $799, and even the 17 Pro Max will retain its $1,199 price point, which is great considering all the great specs we've heard this phone is bringing, and these are actually the most popular iPhones. That being said, the Air might land the price bump over the Plus to $949, though it seems $899 is also a possibility according to this report. Now, the biggest bump really comes to the iPhone 17 Pro starting at $1099, but then with the positive news that we're apparently getting more base storage to 256 gigs. Finally. In today's question, let me know. I mean, if Apple launched such major changes to its Air and Pro iPhones, are you cool with the price plan considering it might remain the same? I mean, in my case, I am. I actually wonder how Apple is pulling it off with the current political climate, so I'm hoping it remains this way. I'm curious to know how you feel about all this in the comments. Friends, thank you so much for joining on another episode of Tech Briefing. Please like, subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments, as I'm sure you've seen me try to respond to as many as I can. Also, follow me on social media as more behind-the-scenes work is coming there. Our little company continues to grow, so we all really hope you like what you see. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.